well, he's able to join us. So welcome to this session. It's going to be, thank you for joining on a Saturday with us. We're going to start now, and then it's going to be almost like a session of 90 minutes. So it's going to be pretty interesting. We have really amazing speakers who are joining us today and who will be talking with you all. And just to start with some instructions before we start with this webinar, you can choose either English or Spanish to listen to this one, right? So if you see at the bottom of your screen should show a button that says interpretation. So you can choose what language you choose to listen to this audio. So we have a translator who is live and who is with us and who is going to be speaking in Spanish the entire time if you prefer that language for this session. Then also, like, there is a Q&A button at the screen too that you can find on your Zoom account. And then if you have any questions, please feel free to write them down there, and we'll read them at the end of the session to our amazing speakers. Also, just to let you know, this session is going to be film and record during the entire time. So if you want to check it later, you can also find it in our YouTube channel. And with that being said, let me introduce a little bit about who we are and what we do, and who is organizing this session today, right? So my name is Jenny Diaz, and I'm one of the Education US advisors here in the network in Mexico. I'm located in Mérida. I cover the states of Yucatan, Quintana Roo, and Campeche. I have my colleagues here. There is, you can see on the screen, Edith. Edith is in San Luis Potosí. She's also organizing this session with us today. And then we have Mabel Martinez. She's based in Guadalajara. Hi, Mabel. And then we have Yandy, who is in Mexico City. Thank you all for organizing this amazing event. It's been a journey to get to today here with you all. We're very excited to have you here and to start this session. And then here in a bit, we're going to introduce, once we let you know a little bit about Education USA, you have never heard about us before, you'll hear the bios and who our amazing speakers are today, who will be joining and leading this session with you all this Saturday. So today we're going to be talking about building business skills for future women entrepreneurs. That's the topic of this session in celebration of the Woman History Month, that is March, and we are almost, this month has gone pretty fast, and we're almost closing the month, but we couldn't close it without an event like this one, the one that we have today for you all. And so what is Education USA? We're a global network of advising centers for the US department. There are more than 175 countries that are part of this network, that have Education USA centers in their countries. And we're very lucky that in Mexico, we are 23. And today you're meeting 4 of us who are part of this network in Mexico. And so it's amazing that this network is part of the US education system that can get close higher education to you all. We offer accurate, comprehensive, and current information about the full range of US higher education institutions that the US has for you all. It's free access to introductory information on US study. Basically, we want to make sure that you have the right information on where to study and where to find the right institution to do your graduate program or your bachelor's degree in the US. And you can reach out to your closest advising center to get more information and to get advice on how to study in this amazing country. Our services, something that we do to help you to get to a study in the US, is basically the first step is research your options, where we help you to find what would be the best fit for you in the US. Today we're going to have a speaker from one amazing institution, but then there are more than 4,000 institutions in the US, right? So which one is the right fit for you? And that's what we help you to navigate and to find. The second one is how to finance your studies. So basically, once you know where you're going, we need to find out if there are any scholarships that you can access to, any assistantships, and then any scholarships that you can apply in Mexico. So you get to to study there with the financial support that you need. The third step is to complete your application. Is like there are many things that the US would ask for you to study there, like essays. You need to do a standardized tests like TOEFL, like GRE, like GMAT, like all these tests that some of the international students are not familiar with. So we help you to navigate through all of those, and then you will need letters of recommendation and all of that. So we help you to navigate through all this process. The fourth step is applying for your visa. It's super important to let you know that if you are interested in studying in the US, you are only going to get the visa once you are admitted to one of these programs, right? So the student visa doesn't happen before you get admitted. So you have to go through these first 3 steps, like research your option, how are you going to pay it, complete the application, get the acceptance letter, and then you can apply for your visa to go to the US as an international student. And then finally, we also make sure that you have the information that you need to. We recognize that you may be moving for the first time to a new country. So we help you preparing for your departure, including where you're going to live, what is the culture in the US, what documents you should bring with you, and all of that information. So basically, this is just a quick introduction to what we do. And with that being said, I think we have our last speaker that we were waiting for to start with this webinar we have planned for you all. So thank you all for joining today with us. I'm going to let my colleague Edith to introduce our speakers this afternoon.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to let you know a little bit about our speakers today. With us, we have Dr. Oksana Carlson. She joined Johns Hopkins Carey Business School in 2009. She provided leadership to the full-time MBA program, managed the portfolio of Master of Science programs, executive MBA, and international initiatives. Since 2014, she has been leading Johns Hopkins Carey Business School global collaborations initiatives, including new academic partnerships and international student engagement. Her professional experience includes consulting and international project management at Johns Hopkins Medicine International, George Washington University, Hyundai Corporation, and business development with both non-profit and for-profit organizations. She managed consulting projects and education programs with partners in Panama, Brazil, Peru, and Ecuador. And she received a Doctor of Education degree with focus on international education from the University of Minnesota, and an MBA in international business from the George Washington University. So welcome, Dr. Oksana. We also have today Cordelia Villalpando. So she moved from Mexico to the US, first to pursue her bachelor's degree and later her master's of science in business analytics and risk management. In her current role as a public director and officer, underwriter, she analyzes publicly traded companies, accounting practices, corporate structure, stock price volatility, corporate governance, and ESG practices to make an underwriting decision. She's passionate about community service and giving back to community. She created a summer camp program for Spanish-speaking bilingual children, volunteer at the Children's Cancer Center and Habitat for Humanity, and other organizations. And Cordelia is a member of the Association of Latino Professionals for America. Well, she will be telling us a little bit about her experience as an alumna. And well, we also have with us Dr. Luis Quintero. He's a researcher on urban and real estate economics at the Johns Hopkins Carey Business School. His work focuses on urban dynamics, especially related to housing markets, agglomeration economies, and policy-related issues like housing affordability. He also conducts research on determinants of growth and decline in cities in developed and developing economies. He teaches courses on infrastructure development of sustainable cities, real estate and infrastructure finance, and econometrics. He tweets also about the housing markets, housing policy, urbanization, and methods at Economics. So you can follow him there. And Professor Quintero's work has been published in leading economic journals, and his work has been quoted in the media, including The Economist, Baltimore Magazine, The Washington Post, and the LA Times, NPR, and CNN. So welcome to the three of you, our great panelist speakers. We are very happy that you're joining us today and that you are willing to share your experiences and perspectives to our audience today. So I give you the floor.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Can you hear me well? Okay, great.
Yes.
Wonderful. So good afternoon. It's great to be here today, and thank you to our colleagues at Education USA Mexico for inviting us and our colleagues from the Johns Hopkins Carey Business School to participate in this panel discussion. This is a really exciting topic, women entrepreneurs. Really exciting to talk about entrepreneurship. This is a very timely and relevant topic. We discuss many questions related to entrepreneurship in our classroom at Carey Business School pretty much daily. We talk a lot about it with our faculty, like Professor Quintero, who is doing research related to some of the topics we'll be discussing. We talk a lot about it with our prospective students who come to study business. Almost any student, or many students that we are talking about are interested in maybe building their own business. If not right now, then sometime in the future. So very relevant topic. So really excited to be here today. When we talk about the entrepreneurship in Mexico, there were several interesting developments in the last few years that are worth mentioning. During the pandemic, of course, the whole pandemic brought a lot of interesting and challenging experiences to everyone. And based on some of the reports that we have seen, for example, Amway Global Entrepreneurship Report 2020, close to 90% of people in Mexico said that they would like to start their own business. So definitely a topic very relevant to many people who live in Mexico as well. Just one example, fintech, the very fast growing area in many countries. Fintech was one of the leading largest source of fintech startups in Latin America in 2021. Fintech in Mexico specifically was the leading source. So many examples that we see in Mexico that entrepreneurship is growing, bringing more attention. And so we are really interested to discuss this topic, how we can provide more resources, support, and what is that women who would like to build their own business, maybe in the future, could benefit, how they could benefit from studying in the United States, learning from the examples of other people and other businesses that already have been developed. I would like to share just a couple of slides. Just give me a second. Okay, hopefully you can see my slides. So since we are three of us representing the Johns Hopkins Carey Business School, I just wanted to mention quickly, we will use some of the examples from the Carey Business School. We are part of the Johns Hopkins University, one of the top universities in the United States. That is quite well known in the academic world. It was actually the very first research university in the United States. We have 27 Nobel Prize winners that have some ties with Johns Hopkins University, and we have a very large network of alumni all around the world. Regarding the entrepreneurship topic, there are some interesting studies that have been done to look at the best countries that build very good environment, best environment for entrepreneurs. And so looking at some of these rankings, for example, there is the best countries for entrepreneurship ranking. Looking at this ranking, we can see top 3 countries, and that's Germany, United States, #2, and then Japan. So we could probably look at some examples and see what is great in these countries. What is it that these countries were able to build that allowed to provide very favorable environment for entrepreneurs. Mexico is in the 41st position with 14 points. And let's look at some of the factors that were evaluated in this ranking. It's transparent business practices, how well is the infrastructure developed in this country, legal infrastructure, the general infrastructure, technological expertise, how innovative everything is in this country, and also looking at skilled labor force and the level of education in the population. I wanted to look at a couple attributes specifically, since we are talking about the education and specific skills that would be helpful for entrepreneurs. So this is just a comparison based on this ranking that is developed by US News and World Report. And we can see, you know, the score that was calculated with the methodology that was used in this ranking. Skilled labor force, we see the score received by United States and Mexico. There is a little bit of a gap there. And the same for educated population. Quite big of a gap, that's 69 versus 4. So I would like to look at these attributes, and I would like to invite Professor Quintero, looking at these two attributes, you know, educated population, level of education, and skills, a skilled labor force. What do you see, how these two attributes contribute to building favorable environment for entrepreneurs from your experience, Professor Quintero?
Thank you, Oksana. Can you all hear me well? Perfect. So great introduction about the topics of both entrepreneurship and the roles of skills. And also, let's not forget that, you know, we are reaching out from an institution in the US to institutions and future potential entrepreneurs and potential students in Latin America. That's where I come from as well. And so we are in a context of a developing economy. So let me just go back to the specific point of building skills and what Oksana was saying about not only, you know, the importance of this for entrepreneurs, but the connection that this has to the overall development of countries in the developing world, to the countries in our region. Just to give you a big picture result from one of these research projects that I developed, we started looking at a subset of 17 major countries in Latin America. These 17 major countries include, of course, Mexico. And we wanted to know what makes a city more or less productive for entrepreneurs, right? And the one thing that we found was the average level of education of all of its workers. And not only that, we found that those businesses that were led by women, and actually the productivity of women in the workforce, were much more deeply affected. And I'm trying to link it back to the topic of women, because I know it's one of the issues of interest today in this event. And we found that, you know, not only skills are going to be the driver of future growth in the region, it is those cities, those areas in these countries that have better skilled workers that are growing fastest and becoming more productive. Women who are in the workforce benefit a lot more from exposure to these skills, right? My mother has always told me that women are smarter, and you know, this piece of research kind of supports that hypothesis of the future in the region is going to be driven by skilled workers, and especially by skilled women in the workforce, right? So getting some of those skills, whether they be through training locally or traveling to other countries where those skills can be acquired, are key for entrepreneurs in developing countries, even more important than for those in developed countries. So that is one part of this connection that Oksana was talking about. Now, you also mentioned, you know, what are these specific skills? And here I'm going to deviate a little bit from the results of this research, where in the results of this research, we were pulling and just looking at the impact of general, you know, tertiary education or university education. And then, you know, when you look at specific skills, I'm going to go with 3 areas of skills that are very important for entrepreneurs and for just overall economic development in our countries. One of them is going to be data analytics, And so data analytics is connected to, in general, technical expertise about how to make decisions based on data, how to make decisions that go beyond just your local informal knowledge of a market. And as we become more and more globalized, the decisions that are made based on carefully, rigorously collected and clean data become more and more important, right? If you're talking about businesses that only live in a small town in one of our countries, then the local information, knowing people around you, knowing how things work, it's going to be enough. As we scale up and we have, ambitions for our projects to become global, and that's the kind of projects that are growing in this globalized world, then making decisions based on rigorous data is the way to go. So data analytics, you've all heard of, ChatGPT, right? The impact, that this is giving all areas of production. It's just one example of how part of this technical expertise is about adaptation. Entrepreneurs need not to only understand the market they're in, but learn skills that allow them to adapt to a changing market, right? The good old days of the economy not changing every 50 years are gone. Now, the way we do things is changing every 6 months, and those who are going to be able to stay on top are those that can adapt to the changing landscape. And then finally, because of this changing landscape, risk management becomes very important. And that's a lot of what we've been trying to incorporate in our course offering at Johns Hopkins. But in general, I would say in graduate education is focused on how do we face an uncertain world. And I know I'm probably taking too long to answer this, but I want to throw in another thing that I would not forgive myself for missing, and that is sustainability. And I think we're going to talk about that later on, but sustainability, climate change, economic and environmental sustainability have become key pillars of development. And if one wants to be a successful entrepreneur, one needs to look into sustainability as a potential area of economic development, right? It's not only the responsible thing to do, it actually opens a lot of opportunities.
Thank you so much, Luis. These are such important insights that you shared with us, and I'm also very interested to hear what you mentioned about some data that shows the women who received higher education proven to show better success to be able to be more successful. So definitely related to the topics we're discussing. I would like to ask Cordelia to share her insights. So Cordelia, I know you moved from Mexico to the United States to pursue business education. Actually, you completed your bachelor's and then you received your master's, Master of Science in Business Analytics and Risk Management. So please share with us what, maybe some of the knowledge that you build, skills that you build and gained during your studies that would be very helpful for future entrepreneurs.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone in Education USA for putting this together for everyone. So first of all, one of the key areas that I focused on, not only as an international student studying in the United States, but also something that can be easily applicable to anyone who wants to study entrepreneurship, would be the ability to network and putting yourself outside of your comfort zone to making those connections. Because when I first moved to the United States, I had no support system. I didn't have any family here. So it was very crucial to start building my support group. And then also by building a network for entrepreneurs that can actually create more visibility to your business, and you would never know where your connections might take you. So that's all something that I really emphasized when I first decided to study abroad. And another thing that I really try to focus on was the communication skills. Is really important to be comfortable and the ability to communicate your purpose. So for example, if you're in a business entrepreneurship, you need to communicate with investors, you need to communicate with your customers. So it's really important to have those foundational communication skills. So those are two of the factors that I really try to focus on during my studies, both for my undergrad and my master's degree program, and also just building that strong business knowledge, because as a business, if you're an entrepreneur, you have to, you know, take care of the marketing. You also have to take care of the finance and the accounting and all those different components that make up a business. You would need to have like that strong foundation. And I feel that's also one of the very important things that you could learn in a master's program. So definitely being able to analyze all those different facets of a business is really important.
Thank you so much, Cordelia. And since you completed the degree, specifically degree in Master's in Science in Business Analytics and Risk Management, and what Professor Quintero mentioned, you know, it's so important for entrepreneurs to be able to adapt, the adaptability, and be ready for uncertainty and how you manage all these uncertainties and risks. Can you talk a little bit maybe about a couple examples of courses from your risk management, business analytics and risk management program that would be relevant here?
Yeah, no, definitely. And something that I really liked about Johns Hopkins is that we have this culture of like build for what's next. So as we mentioned, and as we've seen in the past year, like you never know what's going to happen in the future. So it's really important to have that future in mindsets to build for what's next. And specifically for the courses, as Dr. Quintero mentioned, you know, I took the course Enterprise Risk Management Frameworks, and that in that course, we learned about different risk management models that can help you to kind of analyze the severity and frequency of certain events. And I feel like as a business, you need to have a plan to actually create that business continuity in case, you know, a pandemic happens, or in case one of your machinery stops working, and how are you going to deal with inventory? So all of those different case scenarios is really important to have a risk management plan in place. And again, I really enjoyed my classes of business communication. We did several presentations where you try to create a business solution in this class, and then you communicated that to the class. So it was having that business communication practice and like standing up and presenting, and the feedback that you get from professors is also really valuable. So those are two other courses that I really enjoyed as a student at Johns Hopkins. But I know that Johns Hopkins has way more to offer. And Oksana, if you could actually give us some insights to any other programs or any other resources that Johns Hopkins has, so that everyone can learn more about them.
Yes, absolutely, Cordelia. And thank you for sharing your insights from your student experience at Johns Hopkins. So of course, there are many other courses. We actually have courses that are specifically focused on entrepreneurship topics, and students can sometimes choose it as electives. For example, we have entrepreneurial ventures course. We talked a little bit about it. In this course, students actually learn about each step of the process of, you know, experience each step of the process, how they will work on opportunity assessment of a business idea. And so this is very hands-on, very related to experience that they will probably have as a real entrepreneur. You know, how do you come up with an idea, how you evaluate the idea, whether it's feasible or not feasible, you know, do a little bit of this feasibility study. And so people really get exposure to the entrepreneurship operations and business, and they work on a specific project. Another example would be real estate entrepreneurship. Here, obviously, they are looking everything from the real estate, the perspective of the real estate sector. They would look at the, you know, how to create real estate pro forma, how to work and find and work with external investors, how to work on a business plan, create a business plan that would be successful. So another example, entrepreneurial finance, looking at the sources of financing for startups. That's very important, of course, for any entrepreneurs. And so here they work in groups, very common, you know, example where people work, students will work in small groups, small teams to be very, to have a very engaging experience. And so these are some of the examples. But besides the courses that students can take in their program while they study in a business program, of course, they can also be engaged in many other activities. And there are student clubs in organization. I'll give you just a few examples. At Carey Business School, we have student clubs such as Net Impact, Women in Business. We have the Hispanic Graduate Student Association. So that's also a great opportunity for people to build their network. There are several student competitions, business case competitions, business plan competition. There is big Johns Hopkins business plan competition that is organized on an annual basis, and it's very focused on interdisciplinary. It has interdisciplinary focus, and it brings students from different schools, across different schools, and they work in teams. So there are so many opportunities for students who want to, be entrepreneurs, to work on cases, group projects, take specific courses, be engaged with the student clubs and organizations. To further explore, gain new knowledge, build new skills, and be better prepared for their future experience. I wanted to come back to a couple ideas that Professor Quintero mentioned about sustainability. So as we know, there are so many people who started building their own business or would like to build their own business. And I think what we have seen in the last 5-10 years, at least, more and more people not only want to build successful business and build it sustainable in terms of financial perspective, but they also want to see how it will create positive impact. So a question for Professor Quintero, if you can talk a little bit about your experience in sustainable development and how future entrepreneurs can think about their business idea also in terms of building sustainable, with a sustainable development in mind.
Yes, definitely. This is a topic that I'm really interested in. And I want to say that often when we think about sustainability and, contributing and giving back to community and economic development, we often think these things are, think of these things as different concepts. And we also think about, entrepreneurships and projects and, joint ventures that are successful as something completely different. And what I have learned by, teaching these types of courses on sustainability for many years is that they are one and the same thing, right? I remember giving one of the courses to a student that I had from Ghana and asking him whether the city he came from was sustainable or not. And he was talking, he came from Akrofu, which is a city in Ghana, a small town. He said, well, yeah, my city is very sustainable because it doesn't have electricity most of the year, and it doesn't have access to water all the time, so we don't spend many resources. And I thought about that, and that's something that you could have thought was sustainable from a very orthodox environmentalist perspective from many years ago. The kind of sustainability I like to have in mind is the sustainability that is human-centered, that includes quality of life, that includes economic development, right? So what I told my student was, well, that's not something we would like to sustain, right? This is not a quality of life, the kind of quality of life that we would like to keep going on, right? So, when we talk about sustainability, I want you to keep your mind open and think about how sustainability is actually a source of business opportunities, and how sustainability, doing good and doing well, right? Doing well in business and doing good for the planet and for humanity, they are often intertwined. Just let me give you a couple of data points that I've looked at. Between 2015 and 2021, green jobs grew by 15%. That was more than twice the rate of total job growth, which was 6% in that same period, right? That means that is where the economy is going, right? It's not only because people want to do good, it's an area in the economy that is growing twice as fast as the rest of the economy. Survey after survey, the McKinsey Global Survey in 2022 said that 40% of the firms expected sustainability programs to generate significant value for the next 5 years. And in the same survey, 60% of high value creating firms said sustainability is part of their corporate culture, right? So incorporating whether your interest, your professional interest is to be part of these huge firms or to be an entrepreneur, incorporating sustainability and giving sustainability a big role in your professional profile and your economic activity is going to make a big difference in the type of market, as I mentioned, where the sector of green products and services is growing twice as fast as the rest. It's not only job-wise, product-wise. In 2021, Kearney and Stifel, two of the largest consumer surveys out there, found that 71% of consumers consider sustainability as one of the important aspects in their purchases. And for millennials and Gen Z, this is also a big generational divide. For younger consumers, this is 30% more important than brand name, right? So in other words, brand name has become a complement with the perception of sustainability that we have of a specific products. And and this of course overlaps with policy. Now in the US, we have the latest infrastructure bill, the largest influx of capital in the production of infrastructure that has ever seen since the reconstruction from after World War II. And what we see is that half of that money is going towards green projects and towards projects that help economic and environmental sustainability, right? So whether it be from the private market, whether it be from actually working with governments and international organizations, sustainability is going to be a source of significant opportunities for your project. And this is not only, an idea that is considered a luxury for rich countries. Actually, the Pew Consumer Survey in the last 2 years has shown that worldwide, Latin America is the area of the world that considers climate change and sustainability highest among the top concerns they have for the future of the region, right? So again, this is a business opportunity besides, a life and death matter, right? As a survival issue. Not only for rich countries, this is crucial for economic development in our countries. Hopefully, this few data points kind of motivate this idea that this can also be important for your own entrepreneurship. But we can go back to all of those things if you have more questions after this. I don't know.
Thank you so much, Luis. These are some great data points. I think that's really helpful and great food for thought. As you mentioned, sometimes we hear some comments that, it's for well-developed countries. These are the concerns for well-developed countries to really work on while we are just trying to survive, for some other countries. So this is a really important point that's something that everybody really needs to be focusing on. And I love your example from Ghana. What exactly is, everybody talks about sustainability, but let's define what do we mean by sustainability. Maybe related to sustainability also, when entrepreneurs, when people decide to build their own business, they often think about where the ideas are coming from, where could they come from. So of course, it would be great if the ideas are related to sustainable development, but some of the sources of these ideas could also be coming from support and work with local communities. So the question is for Cordelia. I know that you are very passionate about working with local communities, and you've been involved in very different activities and supporting local communities. So tell us a little bit more about your experience and how do you think some of the ideas could evolve, business ideas could evolve from the work with local communities?
Yeah, no, definitely. So one organization that I was really involved would be Habitat for Humanity, and they mainly focus on building affordable houses, and volunteers build these houses to provide for the need after natural disasters. And another organization that I've worked for, well, volunteered for, was the Ronald McDonald House of Charities, and they mainly advocate to improve the health and the well-being of children, especially children who have cancer. So for me, it's always been important and a goal of mine to like give back to my community in any way that I can. And I feel like this can also create, a lot of business opportunities. You see, major shoe brands being like, oh, you buy one pair, we give back one pair to a community. And then you also have, retailers where they really strive to have, 100% of their clothes made through recyclable materials. So the ability of giving back and being sustainable can create a lot of different opportunities in the business world, but it could also create solutions to major problems that we are currently facing. So I would say that it's definitely really important to, give back, but also as Dr. Quintero said, it could actually, build your brand as well. So definitely it's something that a lot of entrepreneurs can use as an avenue for not only creativity to find solutions, but also use it as inspiration to just, give back and do well.
Thank you so much, Cordelia. That could be really a source of inspiration, both to give back, but also come up with some business ideas, how it could really make change. Your business could create a real change in the lives of people around you. I remember, Cordelia, you mentioned that you moved from Mexico to the United States, from Monterrey, Mexico to the United States in 2017. Tell us a little bit about your experience, since we're talking about women who may be interested, in building their own business, maybe studying, learning about business. Tell us about your experience of moving from Mexico to the United States. How everything went.
Yeah, no, definitely. At first, it's normal to be scared or just like nervous to moving to a new country. As I mentioned, I didn't know anyone in the city that I was moving to. So that can be pretty intimidating, but I would say just look at it as an opportunity and like be grateful that you have this opportunity to study in another country. And also just the ability of like staying outside of your comfort zone and saying yes to all the opportunities that come your way, because you can really take advantage of meeting new people, learning new things, and also, the friendships that I built have been so diverse as well. So I was exposed by moving to different cultures. So I know people, from Jordan and India, and to people from China. So you get to experience a lot of different cultures and build those friendships, but also learn. So that's definitely something that has been pretty rewarding. And yeah, I would say just the main advice that I would give to anyone who is thinking about moving to a different country would definitely be to just stay open to all the opportunities and definitely put yourself in positions where you're outside your comfort zone.
Thank you so much, Cordelia. I want to explore a little bit another topic that we touched upon, which is building your network. I can imagine, somebody moving from another country, and we all actually had this experience, right? You move from another country to another country, and then you're thinking about building your own business. Should you open it in Mexico? Should you open it in the United States? There are just so many questions to explore. So thinking about the, opportunities for building one's network and building connections, and just exploring how do you go about, building your own business. I would like to explore, and hear your insights. So maybe the question for Professor Quintero, I know that you are a co-director of the Latin American and Caribbean Economic Association Urban Economic Network. And so from that perspective, if you could talk a little bit about this association or other resources, opportunities for people to be involved, get access to some best practices or knowledge that is available for people who want to be entrepreneurs.
Yes, definitely. This issue of creating one's network is a never-ending task. It's something that you do every single day. And honestly, it was kind of a culture shock when I came to the US. And two things. One, I thought, I have to focus on my studies. I have to hit the books. I don't have time to network. And how wrong was I, right? I realized that not only that is going to help me learn better to be around people who have various interests, right? And also that is part of the richness that you get from traveling to other countries, experiencing other people, and some of the things you get from getting a degree, right? In another in another place, but in specifically in US university, which are so diverse and full of international students. Networks have become globalized. I talked a little bit before about skills and the importance of making decisions based on data when you are going to have a more globalized vision of your business. The same goes with networks. When I first moved in here, I thought, I'm going to go to grad school 4 years tops, then I'm going to go back and keep doing what I was doing. Well, 17 years later, I'm still here, right? And so, however, while I was in grad school, I tried to maintain my network of people with similar interests, working in the same sectors that I was working in Latin America while I was going to school. And this led into, connecting with LACEA, the Latin American Caribbean Economic Association, working with them for several years, and eventually becoming the co-director of the Urban Economics Network, right? So did I think that was going to be the end goal when I kept in touch with them all these years? No. However, I learned that building your network again is a constant job that you have to keep doing, and that it will eventually pay off, right? So even though I am now local in the US, I do research here, I work here, I still organize multiple events. I am using now in my job for Johns Hopkins my connections with Latin America to do research, to do consulting opportunities, to help increase the course offerings of the university. So how does that apply to your entrepreneurship, for example? If you're an entrepreneur, well, exact same way, right? If you come to get a graduate degree in the US, part of what you're doing is planning for the future and building this human capital and these connections with people all around the world that will be useful when you either go back to your country, stay in the US, or go somewhere else, right? In a globalized world, the opportunities, especially if you are able to move around and meet other people, these opportunities open up through these networking activities. I think most universities in the US have learned about this. I know Carey Business School at Johns Hopkins, where I work, definitely has learned about this. And so we make a big effort in giving you a lot more tools and a lot of more opportunities to build your own network. But again, this is not a thing that you do in 1 year. This is not a thing that you only do while you're in school here. This is a thing that you're going to have to keep doing, moving into the future. This is a constant work. Now, in terms of specific organizations, as I was mentioning, I belong to the Latin American and Caribbean Economic Association. We focus on economic studies, and we encourage people, even people that do not only work in doing research. We love to hear from them. There's a version of this Vox website that does economic journalism called Vox LACEA. And we publish blog posts, and often we have people in different sectors of the economy right there and promote their work. And so I say that that's a place where people both doing academic work and industry work could benefit from the offerings of LACEA. But in general, I would say that beyond LACEA, it is really a matter of trying to think about what are the sectors that you want to learn about, and just stepping out of your comfort zone and reaching out to people. this idea of sending an email to somebody and grabbing a coffee and telling them about your ideas, it's actually something useful, and it's not going to work, 98 or 95% of the 100 times that you do it, but that 5% of the time that it works is going to make a big difference. So, do not be afraid of rejection. Just keep reaching out to people that you think you can learn from. And often these people who are, very successful, you think they're out of your reach to build a network. And often they are actually flattered. They like to be reached out to by younger entrepreneurs, people who are starting their careers, who tell them explicitly, I find what you've done very interesting. I would like some advice in this. They actually enjoy this. And sometimes, you miss out on opportunities of building networks for fear of not bothering people. So get out there and start bothering people to build your network.
These are great insights. Thank you so much, Luis. Cordelia, from your perspective, as a very recent student, right, it's maybe slightly different. How do you see this working and valuable for someone who wants maybe still keep connection with Mexico, but you studied and build your network in the United States? How it could be helpful building something between two countries?
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like it's very important to, build your own network, but also to help other people make connections as well. So it's important that, like, if you have somebody back home that you feel like, oh, this person could go like do a job for this specific other person in the United States. So kind of like be the bridge to make those connections, because also in the end, people will thank you if you bring them like the human capital of value that you already have. So being the linkage and the bridge between like Mexico and the US could be very beneficial, not only for you, but also the people in both of your networks. So that's kind of like a balance that you can create. And also I mentioned, like, I moved here not knowing anyone. So really like looking for organizations. So if you're very interested in like finance, I know that there's several organizations that create like business events that you can attend to like build your network. Same with like entrepreneurship. There's several different organizations here in the United States that have, their local chapters that you can actually like attend to those events. So when I was a student, I was really trying to involve and researching those local chapter organizations that were in my city and actually just like showing up and talking to people. I feel like also LinkedIn is a great tool that helped me and several other students that I had for classes. We really used LinkedIn as an avenue to reaching out to people. As Dr. Quintero said, like, you might think they're not within your reach, but within just one LinkedIn message, you can actually, build that connection from scratch. So definitely taking advantage of the resources. Also through actually alumni. So once you're out of school, you have this huge network of alumni. So I've actually attended several Johns Hopkins event alumni here in Dallas. So definitely being able to build your network throughout your student career, but also out of it, is very beneficial as well.
These are great thoughts and suggestions and insights. Thank you so much, Cordelia. And I want to share a quick slide since we were talking about various organizations, associations, resources. So we have just some information that we can share with our participants, attendees today. Of course, there are so many resources available. So there are just some things that may be helpful for you. I included the link for Johns Hopkins Carey Business School. Look at the business case competitions if you decide to study in the United States. LACEA, as Professor Quintero mentioned, there is US-Mexico Chamber of Commerce. They're usually American Chamber of Commerce of Mexico, and they may have, location near you that you would like to visit. I also included some of our contact information, so you're welcome to connect with us, look at the resources and opportunities we have at the Johns Hopkins Carey Business School. And I think we covered such important topics, talking about the ideas that come for entrepreneurship, for new business ventures, how you evaluate those ideas, thinking about sustainable development, helping local communities, and hopefully getting ideas from those engagements, the resources, knowledge that you have access to, and some of the business skills and knowledge you can build also if you decide to pursue business education in the United States. I think this is a great time for us to move to question and answers. And I see actually several questions already posted here. So let me just see the questions. The first one is for Dr. Quintero. You were talking about sustainability to develop a business. Can you explain a little bit more? Why is it important to be green sustainable? That's a great question.
That's a great question. Thank you, Miguel. And I would say it's a two-pronged answer. One, hopefully that's what motivates most of us. It is important to be a green sustainable business because this is a survival issue for the world, right? We need to be sustainable to actually be able to have access to resources in the long term, going into the future. Now, how do we get to be sustainable? There's two ways. We either regulate our path to sustainability, we impose sustainability from the government, or we implement sustainability through private initiatives, right? I think the answer is probably between, some point in between the two. I think that the private sector might not have the incentives to provide all the sustainable solutions that we require, but I do think probably more than others that the private sector has many ways to contribute to sustainability. And in those ways, it is also good for the private sector, for the firms themselves to do so, right? Because there's an increase in demand for those types of businesses. Consumers want them. New employees want to work in businesses like this. And so as you provide these new goods and services to the market, you're both accomplishing, dimension number one, which is doing good, helping the world become more sustainable, and exploiting, a profitable business opportunity. So I don't want you to think about green and sustainable business for your firm as a trade-off where you get more sustainability, less profit, but almost the opposite. If you look at it in an intelligent way, and that is the way you see a lot of large firms doing it, they've realized this is where we're going. This is where regulation will take us, but this is also where just in general demand of young people will take us. Young people are interested in becoming more sustainable, and that means that they will consume goods and services that are more sustainable, and that becomes a business opportunity for your firm.
Thank you so much, Luis. And I'm just looking through the questions, and maybe I'll jump to one of the last questions because it's very relevant. So financially speaking, how difficult could it be to achieve sustainability? Do you have any more specific practical advice?
I think we are making progress. I think this is a worldwide issue. But again, I think the question kind of hints at about how expensive it is to become sustainable. And I would like to flip it around again and think about how financially expensive it would be not to be sustainable, right? Avoiding or not reaching sustainability is going to cause major flood disaster in Miami, just to give you one of a million examples. It's going to make access to a fertile, food production more expensive through global warming. It's going to give firms and consumers much more expensive access to clean water. So yes, it is expensive. I don't have a number from the top of my head, but I would say it's definitely much more expensive in the long run not to be sustainable.
Thank you. Thank you for your responses. These are great thoughts to food for thought, right? To think a little bit further. Let's look at some other questions. I don't know how to pronounce the name. Pame, not sure, is asking, I found it surprising that Mexico's ranking is quite low, but I think it's probably because Mexican business culture is more local and informal oriented. Entrepreneurs don't expect large profit margin, but it's relatively easy to start business here. Do you consider these shadow markets when you research entrepreneurship in the world? This is an interesting comment. And of course, you know, whenever we look at any ranking, it's helpful to look at methodology. And there are a lot of also comments and maybe some criticism about various rankings. So good to keep this in mind. That was just helpful to look at the, you know, factors and the attributes that are being evaluated when this ranking is designed to see which countries have the most favorable environment for entrepreneurship. And as you may remember, some of these attributes included also infrastructure, how well the infrastructure is developed in the country. And I travel a lot around the world, and it's pretty noticeable in some countries, just the fact that you see the infrastructure is so not well developed that you just see, you know, every little thing that you try to do in this country is just becoming quite difficult in comparison with some other countries where it's just looking at infrastructure. Purely infrastructure could be a very big component of how easy or not easy it is to, you know, develop business, especially if it's something, you know, tangible that you need to, I don't know, produce, manufacture. You look at the storage, supply chain, the whole supply chain system. So simple things like that. Then we also look at the digital infrastructure. Then we looked at in the ranking some attributes, also looking at the transparency, you know, how everything is transparent or not, some legal aspects. So all of this is considered all together. But I want to ask maybe Cordelia, do you have any thoughts on this, you know, since you lived in Mexico, you're from Mexico. Do you have any comments about how Mexico is ranked, or what is the general environment for entrepreneurs in Mexico, if you have any thoughts on this?
I would definitely agree with what you said, Oksana. It's important to, when you're looking at data, you know, try to figure out how they came up with those results. So I think maybe what impacted the score could also be a little bit like education. I feel like Mexico could definitely, you know, strive to have like a better education system, especially around entrepreneurship. So maybe that could be the reason why we got a score so low, just because it's such a new topic when you talk about like entrepreneurship and all the different avenues and all the different research that you can have in this area. So I feel like maybe that's where kind of like we're lagging a little bit behind. So definitely kind of like that education component around entrepreneurship.
Thank you so much, Cordelia. We also know that we have several participants who are in the room in those Education USA offices, and some of them would like to ask questions live. So I would like to ask our Education USA colleagues to help us coordinate this part, but would like to hear directly from our participants.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Mabel Martinez. I'm the Education USA Guadalajara advisor, and I'm having here in Guadalajara a view party. I'm having this view party with some women entrepreneurs, and one of them, she has a question. Her name is Elizabeth, and go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Congratulations for this opportunity. I have a question that what it will be the strategy for apply to older woman or women like 30s, 40s, or 50. I want to entrepreneur, to start a business, maybe in another country like United States or other country. What have to be these steps or strategy to start a business?
Thank you so much for asking this question, and it's great to see that you're having a viewing party. That sounds really exciting. I just wanted to clarify the question. I think you started asking a question for somebody who is a little bit more experienced, already has experience, to study in the United States. Did you ask specifically about studying in the United States and then opening the business, or just wanted to clarify the question a little bit? Perhaps study in the United States and then open the business later? Okay.
Business entrepreneur, or like Cordelia and Luis told us that, well, if you start with study in the United States, in this case,
okay,
it will be more easier. After that, start a business. But what happened if we have a woman that finished or studies, what we're going to do, what that kind of strategies that we can apply for this issue?
That's a great question. Let me start, and I will ask my my colleagues to join and chime in. So I would share with you maybe a couple thoughts. So one, you would want to think about whether you want to study and receive a degree. So one path would be if you want to enroll in a degree program. And if that's the case, you know, many people who come to our MBA programs are typically interested in, you know, starting their own business or have already done this. So maybe you would like to look at some of the MBA programs at our school or somewhere else. There are also programs that are called executive MBA that may be also relevant for someone who already has, you know, 10 years or more years of experience. And you would be in a similar, you know, in a class with similar people with similar experience, a little bit more senior in the process, you know, a little bit further in their career. So that may be another opportunity, executive MBA, I would strongly recommend to consider. And people come from a variety of different backgrounds, which is very helpful. Actually, you will be in the same, you know, room in the class with people in a cohort with people who come from all different backgrounds. Somebody will be coming from financial services, somebody from, I don't know, manufacturing, healthcare sector, I don't know, real estate, consulting. And so that's a very enriching experience when you are studying in a program such as MBA or executive MBA, as you will be also getting exposure to a lot of different ideas and concepts and how the same method or theory, how it applies in different sectors. So that's something to consider if you want to study and receive a degree in the United States. And of course, it would be helpful for you to build a network. Another idea, you know, now that we are in this globalized world with a lot of digital opportunities, there are more and more programs that you can complete online without traveling. It's a little bit easier, and you can explore either opportunities to receive a degree without maybe traveling. You could still build a network using the resources that you can get access to, or you can look also at such programs as offered by executive education. So most business schools also have executive education programs, and they are focused, typically they are shorter programs, non-degree, and they're focused on particular skills. So you can find a program for, you know, executives that is focused on risk management. You can find a specific program focused on how you manage social media for your business. And so that will be a different path to explore there. I don't know if Cordelia or Luis would like to share something else.
Cordelia, you want to say something? I think, you know, what Oksana is saying, I've also learned it firsthand of how diverse our groups of students are. You know, I've taught to people of all levels of experience and all age ranges, and they really complement each other. They work in projects together, they learn from each other. And again, when the course ends, they are part of each other's network. So I would definitely say, that's a big step in developing a network and trying to become, even an even more successful entrepreneur to get a degree or start courses in the US. That's definitely one thing. I would also say that being an entrepreneur does not begin after you graduate or end there. And even though that is going to really help you step up your game in your individual projects, I think if you're passionate about something, you should definitely go for it and start getting as many skills and as much training as you can through these different types of opportunities. But do not wait and stop your project just because you haven't gotten the right degree yet, right? You mentioned, how would this be different for a woman that has had some years of experience or is less young than maybe the average entrepreneur? Well, first of all, again, as I told you, I've seen entrepreneurs of all ages, and on the other end, all the experience that you have had so far could be useful in an entrepreneurship, right? Whether it be in your own business or working for others, you should take all of that, all of the experience you have, as a construction of skills that other people do not have, right? So use all of that to make your profile unique and then strengthen it by studying and getting even more skills. But do not think of all the time that has passed in your profession as time wasted. If it hasn't been dedicated to entrepreneurship, it is not time wasted. It's actually part of the training and the experience that makes you unique, and that would make your entrepreneurship unique.
Thank you so much. I hope we answered your questions, and let's see if we have any other questions from the audience here or in other offices.
Dr. Oksana,
Yes.
I do not have more question from this viewing party. I'm gonna give the floor and the mic to Jandi now.
Thank you everyone. Are there any other questions, Edith, before we wrap up?
We have some other questions on the Q&A. I don't know, maybe you can ask them to our panelists.
I see several questions in the Q&A section for Cordelia. Cordelia, would you like to answer? And some of them are in Spanish, so maybe you could go through those questions. That would be great.
Yeah, let me just find them and scroll.
Did you see?
I have.
So,
Okay, good.
oh, sorry. So for Miguel Alejandro Gomez, his question is mainly on how to overcome the barriers of language and how important would be for a network in both countries. So regarding the language component, I feel like it's such a cliche, but practice does make perfect. And also, like, don't be afraid to talk. Like, even if you feel like self-conscious that you have an accent, like, you deserve to be in the table, you deserve to be where you are. So, like, never feel embarrassed or concerned about how your accent is, because I know people will understand. Like, it's very impressive just to like speak 2 languages to begin with, so people usually are very understanding, and they'll try to work with you if you have that language barrier. And also, if you feel like you need a little bit more practice, there's definitely a lot of resources that you can have online. I know like Duolingo has like an English language where you can like practice. There's also like Rosetta Stone and Babbel. So there's definitely a lot of avenues to improve your English and just like practice as much as you can, that would definitely go a long way. I don't know if Luis has any other comments as well for that.
Yeah, so I think you bring out a very good point that I've heard elsewhere, and that is, if somebody has an accent, it means they speak another language, right? So, you shouldn't feel bad about it. It's actually a sign of you having more skills than the average person you're competing with in the US. But definitely, it makes you self-conscious sometimes, and you need to practice and try to practice. As Spanish speakers, we sometimes tend to self-isolate because there's so many Spanish speakers in the US that you could basically, work here, but have 100% of your social circle be, Hispanics. And sometimes it takes a little bit of effort to get out of your comfort zone and actually hang out in English. And I think that definitely makes a difference. So I would suggest you do that as well.
Thank you both. I would like to ask you both maybe to go through the questions, because there are many questions, which is very exciting. I'm really excited to see when participants ask questions. So I would answer a couple questions, and I would like you to pick a few others that are most relevant that you would like to respond to. So I will respond to a couple questions. One was about the degree. If somebody wants to study in the United States and they already received the previous degree, whether it's bachelor's or something else in Mexico, how do they know if this degree will be recognized in the United States? So what we do at the Johns Hopkins Carey Business School, and most other universities would do the same, they request the applicants, if you decide to apply, they ask applicants to do the credential evaluation. There is a certain process, and there are several credential evaluation agencies. The most well-known probably is WES. You could look it up. You can also see on our page, admissions page, there is the whole list of credential evaluation agencies that we work with. And all you do is you work with them, send your transcripts. There is a process how you send the transcripts, and they evaluate your academic credentials, and they produce report which will state whether your credentials, how they're evaluated. For example, based on what you completed in Mexico, it is equivalent of bachelor's degree in the United States, what you completed. So this is the process. I think some people decide to do it anyway, even if they don't apply to study in the United States, just for them to be able to say, I received something that's equivalent of a certain degree. But typically students who are applicants doing this if they come from outside the United States. So that's relatively simple process. Look it up as a credential evaluation. I will respond to another question, which was about financial, managing your own finances. If you decide as an international student move into the United States, how you think about this whole, sources of funding, how do you go about it, how do you manage? So that's a big question. Of course, we receive this question, we hear it from international applicants every day. So just couple quick suggestions. So one, I would really encourage you, if you would like to study in the United States, do not be afraid. Explore and pursue different opportunities. Very often international students are a little bit concerned and afraid if they see especially high level of tuition, high tuition, and they think about the living expenses, and they become a little bit afraid and maybe discouraged, and they just don't even apply. Or they don't apply to universities that seem to have maybe higher tuition. And so they go for some maybe, different schools, only making their decision based on the affordability. So I would encourage you still explore further. I can tell you that there are a lot of scholarship opportunities. We at Johns Hopkins also, we do offer scholarships. It's merit-based. So you just need to apply. You need to go through the application process. There is not a separate process for scholarship at our school, at least. And so we do offer some scholarships if we see that there are strong applicants. The same applies to all other schools and universities. So there are a lot of scholarship opportunities. Please explore in your own country. There may be some scholarships that you can receive in your country and bring with you to study. There are some government supported scholarships. And the universities and schools in the United States typically do offer some scholarships. So please explore that. That's one piece of advice. The second is again, you know, we were talking about building your network, start building in your network early, even at the time when hopefully you got your admission, get in touch with your future classmates. What we have seen with a lot of students coming from certain countries in our school, they start building this connection well in advance, even before they arrive. They ask for contacts. They decide, you know, they share information. They talk about how to find the apartment. They share their apartment, you know, maybe 3 or 4 people if it's a nice apartment. So that helps you manage your finances as well and make it a little bit more practical and manageable. I would like to ask, to invite others to review other questions and maybe help us go through them.
There's one thing that I've been very interested in and working, and I think it's actually, it doesn't look like it's connected, but it is. There's a question about ChatGPT and the impact on education. So it says whether it's going to improve or damage education. And I would say, you know, it's just going to change it. And it's almost like this question, whether it's going to improve it or not, it's not really relevant, because I think we do not get to decide from now on. I think it's really making such big shock waves, and I've already seen it in my classwork. It's changing how people work already and how we work. So I would say it's definitely going to change it, and it's going to require different skills. It doesn't mean you don't have to study anymore. It doesn't mean education will not be relevant anymore. It means it might change, right? And so just like with Google, you know, learning fun facts became less of a sign of education because it's something that you don't need anymore. It's all in your phone. Well, there's other things that might be more mechanical, and that, you know, those types of skills might not make a difference in the workplace anymore when ChatGPT can do that faster than you, but you're going to be the one doing ChatGPT. So it goes again back to this idea of, for entrepreneurs and in general in a globalized world, for workers and people in the professional world, adapting to new, learning how to learn and adapting to new realities is really going to make a difference. And ChatGPT is definitely one of them.
Thank you so much, Luis. Cordelia, there were a few questions for you. Would you like to go through them?
Yeah, so for the question of Emily Denise Cuevas, I personally don't have a business in the United States. I'm just here on a job. So what I will say, definitely, if you want to start a business in the United States, just I would say that a few barriers would be kind of like that legal component and like being in compliance. Because I know regulation in the United States is definitely different than regulation in Mexico. So definitely be sure that you have that legal consulting and legal team to like help you in any situation as you create your business in the United States. But for the question of how do you not get unmotivated, I would say just believe in yourself and believe in the process. Like just because you have one small hurdle, it doesn't mean it's like the end of your journey or the end of your business. So definitely believe in the process, but also be able to adapt and pivot your business. So if you see that as you go into this process of entrepreneurship, you think that, you know, it's not really working for you, definitely be able to adapt and change it towards a way that will create new opportunities. So definitely having that creative mindset and be constantly thinking about solutions and ways to improve your own business and improve your own practices can definitely help you to not be unmotivated, and just know that there's always opportunities in the hardest of times. So definitely never forget about that. So that can help you to hopefully not be unmotivated in case something doesn't go your way.
Thank you so much, Cordelia. Maybe one more question. Professor Quintero, do you have a specific question you want to answer?
Yeah, so I see, do you think there are more opportunities to have sustainability in the future? I think yes. And I think, you know, policy-wise and regulation-wise, we have slowly acknowledged that. I think the private sector is also acknowledging that. And as usual, the private sector moves a little bit faster. So I would say the landscape for sustainability has changed significantly the last 5 years. And it's actually the lack of political understanding that is kind of holding us back in some cases. So I wouldn't say the problems are solved, but I would say there's definitely, you know, a chance to do better than what I would have said 5 or 7 years ago.
Thank you so much. I think we're coming to the end of this panel discussion. I would like to thank Luis and Cordelia for joining, and that was a really meaningful, great conversation with a lot of valuable insights and thoughts you have shared. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Carlson, Professor Quintero, and Cordelia for being here with us. And also thank you for everyone who participated on a Saturday. Thank you for being here. Before we wrap up, make sure also to contact your closest Education USA Advising Center if you're interested in pursuing a graduate degree in the United States. We are also sharing our contact information. We will follow up with an email to everyone who registered and participated, so we can share a little bit more about Johns Hopkins Carey Business School, and also our contact information. Also, I would like to mention that this year we are celebrating the bicentennial of bilateral relations between the United States and Mexico. And also this bicentennial commemorates more than a relationship between our two governments. It offers a unique opportunity to celebrate the ties that connect our people on both sides or of the border. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here, for your interest in connecting with Johns Hopkins, with our panelists, with our speakers. And thank you so much, everyone, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.